And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to the Coors Light 500 at Hillside for race number 19 of the debut season of the PCSRA Winston Cup Series. After today's race, we only have 7 more races left to go, and time's running out for drivers to make the playoffs as far as those that have a win that are outside the top 30 in points and those that are inside the top 30 in the standings. Margaret Jacobs starts on the pole position for today's race. She comes in this race 23rd in the points, still looking for her first win on the season. Alongside is last week's winner, Ben Tennyson. He jumped up 3 spots to 6th in the standings with his second win of the year. This will more than likely, barring any meltdown that happens between now and then, keep him away from 30th in the standings. Maddie Crenshaw in row number 2. Crenshaw 35th in points, having a struggling season. And alongside is Zachary Taylor, who comes in this race 22 points back of 30th in the standings, which is occupied by Marty Stevens. Taylor needs a good run today to get back in the top 30 in points to have his win count for a spot into this season's chase for the championship for this series. As you look at the rest of the starting lineup, Luke Knight did not have a good qualifying, so another bad qualifying result for him. As the points are as follows: J TwoTwo has a 36-point lead over Cody Smart. J Bouvier is 74 back, third in the standings. 75 back, Ashley Horton in fourth. Monica Towns, 88 points back in fifth. Ben Tennyson, last week's winner, is sixth in the standings. 92 back, 98 back is Jessica Miller in seventh. Betty Johnson, Annie Crenshaw, and Melissa Cooper are 100, 101, and 115 points back of the points lead. As we're going to make sure the field is rolling off. And if they try to go to pit road because of where the start-finish line is, it will credit them that they started the race. So that's a good thing for me. It is chilly today. I know this race is coming out in the summertime. It is 45 degrees. The Busch race was 65 and cloudy. Today it's 45. So these drivers were in jacket weather. You don't normally see that until like September or October, but not in July, which is rare. But anyway, get ready to go racing here. Green flags in the air. We're racing here at Hillside. This track races like a super speedway. I'm a former winner here in another NR series, so I know this track very well from hot to toe, or from head to toe. I don't know why I said hot to toe, but anyway. Margaret Jacobs going to lead the first lap of this race. There's a couple of drivers up here that qualified well that are also right near that 30th position in the standings. One of the Todd Montgomery in the 77. There's Ben Erickson, last week's winner, Ben Tennyson. $17 and 16 points for Todd Montgomery, 17 for Todd, 16 for Ben, between themselves and 30th in the standings, which is, by the way, occupied by Marty Stevens. And we all thought Marty Stevens' poor finish was going to put him outside the top 30 in the points last week. Apparently, that was not the case. As Maddie Crenshaw looks underneath the Bud Chevrolet. That's Annie Thomas in the 23. She's 55 points back of 30th in the standings. I'm probably may have to say this. I think Annie Thomas is definitely going to be in a must-win situation despite going to victory lane at Phoenix. And she's going to need a good run to get herself back in the top 30 in the points to have that win count for a spot into this season's chase for the championship. Zachary Taylor's up here at the front. A couple of drivers that are outside the top 30 in the points are up front. Need a good run. Brooklyn Carter, who comes into this race in the 28th position of points. A win for her would get her in the playoffs. Caution's out for the first time today. I've just seen the yellow lights on the wall, and we're under yellow. And who did this involve? Sean Art just leaving the scene of the accident. There's Melissa Cooper. Maybe Annie Winters, possibly? I'm not so sure. We're going to have to investigate that as the first caution of the race is out. Same lap as our Busch race yesterday. Let's jump back and look at a replay to find out what happened in the early stages of the Coors Light 500. Well, Sean likes to say Spinella, and looks like he got into a Spinella with Annie Winters. 3 wide with Brad Lewis, and just like what we saw in the Busch race yesterday, where Annie Winters' car got a little tight, got up into the machine. Also, Ponzo Albanus, Monica Towns, was involved. Melissa Cooper also collected the 43. And the problem with the banking, once you get stuck on this banking, it's like you're going to be stuck there for a while. And we all thought Sean was going to get stuck, but Sean found a way to get his car going in the right direction, get it refired, and saved him from going a lap down. A little bit of damage to the 43, that's from the banking, and probably some little bit of rear end damage on the M&M's Ford of Annie Winters. So the yellow's out for the first time today. Let's jump to the restart here at Hillside. Getting ready to go back to green flag racing on lap number 11 of 40. Should give us 30 to go as we're past the 1/4 mark. Brooklyn Carter, the leader. Annie Thomas, second. Ben Tennyson, third. Maddie Crenshaw, fourth. Ben Erickson, fifth. Margaret Jacobs, sixth. Zachary Taylor, seventh. Todd Montgomery, eighth. Mia Watts, ninth. And 10th is Jerry Harvick. We're being told Luigi Cadet got stuck on the apron under that caution, and he has fallen 2 laps down. Where is he on the track? There he is. And we're also being told the 29 of J TwoTwo came to pit road. Not entirely sure what was wrong with J TwoTwo. He better get going because he's about to get lapped. As the leaders are coming off turn 4, and that's not good for J TwoTwo. Came in this race as the points leader, as we're back to green here at Hillside. Looks like neither J TwoTwo nor Luigi Cadet made it up there, and got another car on pit road. That's Courtney Lynn. So a mechanical problem for Courtney Lynn. That's one of the drivers who's trying to stay in the top 30 in the points. She came in this race 7 points ahead of 30th in the standings. That's not good for Courtney Lynn. That's terrible for Courtney. As Annie Thomas is now going to take the lead from Brooklyn Carter. There's a critical bonus point for Annie Thomas. J TwoTwo would like to see a caution because Cody Smart's the guy who's trying to run down J TwoTwo for the points lead, and that's not good, as Ben Erickson's going to take the lead from Annie Thomas. Those two are teammates at World Knots Racing. Annie Thomas always runs the 23 because that's been her signature number. Ben Erickson runs the 96 from the Monster Energy Series. Of course, they're going to be a part of the Oreo Cup Series coming up. And, oh, no, we're going 4 wide for the lead. Zachary Taylor just made it 4 wide. That's not going to work. Something has to give. Looks like Erickson's going to give. And he had to give room to Annie Thomas and Zachary Taylor, as Taylor will lead that critical lap as well. Boy, it's getting a little dicey up here at the front of the field. Unlike the Busch race yesterday where it was calm and collected, this is a little dicey. Courtney Lynn has returned to the race. She is, I believe, 1 lap down. Let me double check that to confirm. She's, 3 laps down, but has no damage. So I'm not entirely sure what's wrong with Courtney Lynn, but she's going to have to hope and pray drivers ahead of her in the running order have trouble, or if we have a big wreck, she can probably escape. And unless that happens, I don't see Courtney Lynn staying in the top 30 in the points. As we're looking at Jerry Harvick, the New Zealander from Fitzwater's team. Jerry Harvick comes in this race 20th in the points. Joe Gibbs Racing has yet to find victory lane this season in the Winston Cup Series, which is kind of surprising to me because I thought, when I had the drivers who I think were going to win, Joe Gibbs Racing would be one of those drivers. But apparently I'm surprised it's taken them this long. And I can't believe they haven't found victory lane, as they're about to lap Courtney Lynn in the 5. Courtney Lynn's going to have to get out, has to make sure she's not going to cause any issues. And it looks like Courtney Lynn's causing a little bit of an issue. I think it's an engine problem because the way the leaders caught her, surprisingly, it looks like an engine problem. It's not a. It's not a. What's the word I'm looking for here? It's not a crash problem. It's a mechanical problem. So it looks like an engine went down as we're past the halfway point here in the Winston Cup race. And of course, with the top 20 in the truck series, like Olivia Jackson, who's trying to stay in the top 20 in points as they're lapping Melissa Cooper, it's critical for drivers that are near that cut line to have good results. And speaking of Olivia Jackson, we will see her and the other 35 truck series drivers next week at Papyrus. They've been off for quite some time, so I have to count how many race weekends it's been. Todd Montgomery, Ben Erickson doing their hopes of staying in the top 30 in points a lot of good. There's Franco Seaman, Elena Aurora. There's Samantha Grainger, Annie Crenshaw. A couple of names that are right there, and I forgot to mention Betty Barrett. I apologize if I didn't mention this back at Daytona. Betty Barrett's running the Sims paint scheme on her BAM Racing Dodge, the one that from Bristol. She'll also run that for the Bristol race. J TwoTwo running in 37th. Zachary Taylor dropped all the way to 35th. Cody Smart not doing any better than J TwoTwo. He's running in 30th. Remember, he came in second in points. So some drivers inside the top 5 are having some troubles today. And there's the gal who's dead last in points, Mia Watts. Mia Watts is probably going to be facing a very unlikely scenario that even if she goes to victory lane, I don't think it's going to be enough for her to get herself in the top 30 in the points. But like I said, she's probably trying to go out there and get a victory. I think Jerry Harvick would like to get a win because, like I said, I will be surprised if Joe Gibbs Racing does not make the playoffs. And Jerry Harvick would like to make the playoffs. Because remember, he's 20th in points, and he's 40 points ahead of 30th in the standings. Speaking of which, where is Marty Stevens running? He's 18th. Hannah Smith, and this is the other thing we're going to have to mention, is that if we have drivers ahead as they're about to lap Courtney Lynn again, if we have drivers ahead of 30th in the standings, I know Courtney Lynn's going to fall out of the top 30 in points. And I know Courtney's doing her best to get out of the way, but she's not doing herself any good, and this is allowing Jerry Harvick to pull away. Kevin Joseph, a driver. Ooh, careful there. Jessica Miller and Tom Montgomery nearly got together. I was getting ready to say Kevin Joseph's up here at the front. He is 22nd in the points. He is 31 points ahead of 30th in the standings, so he's just trying to continue to build that cushion between himself and 30th in the standings, which he's doing a good job of succeeding. Annie Thomas running in 23rd. And Cody Smart not doing any... Well, Cody's in 21st. Remember, he's second in points. So we're not entirely sure what's going to happen going forward, as far as that is concerned. Jerry Harvick, part of Fitzwater's team. Jerry's had a up and down season, but would love to get a win to get himself into the playoffs to have any chance. Michael Anderson's been okay at Joe Gibbs Racing. Of course, he's running in 12th right now. And the problem for Jerry Harvick, he's about to get eaten up by this group led by Josephine Bouvier. Kevin Joseph, a second win for him, or Todd Montgomery, a second win for him, those two could solidify themselves a spot into the playoffs, and that lead is starting to shrink really easily. And before too long, we might have a battle for the lead, but the question is, will they have enough time to catch the Interstate Battery Chevrolet? That's something we're going to have to wait and see. It's now down to six tenths of a second. 6,800ths, rather. And they are doing a good job. And Courtney Lynn's going to be a factor of who's going to win this race. And don't look now, it's down to half a second between the 18 and the 16. Because they're in a group where the 18 is all by his lonesome. The big question is, what kind of a points gap Jacob TwoTwo is going to have over Cody Smart, because Cody's ahead of Jacob by 17 points, which that's critical. As we're going to come to the white flag, is Jerry Harvick going to hold off a hard charging team as he had to check up a bit with Courtney Lynn. Here comes Mia Watts. Watts had a run, but that blocked her up. And Kevin Joseph, hello, had a run on Courtney Lynn, but Courtney Lynn put him in the wall. And off of turn 4, Jerry Harvick's going to win the Coors Light 500 here at Hillside. First win of the season for Joe Gibbs Racing. It's taken him 19 races, and unofficially, could we say, has Jerry Harvick locked himself a spot into this season's chase for the championship, providing he remains in the top 30 in points. Mia Watts, a well-needed run for her in second. Todd Montgomery third. Kevin Joseph will settle for fourth, but those are good results for those two drivers. The Crenshaw sisters ended up fifth and sixth. Annie Crenshaw, the youngest of the two, led that brigade home. Still a good result for Maddie Crenshaw. Both still looking for their first wins on the season. Ben Tennyson, 1 week after his second win of the year, finished in seventh. Didn't talk much about Brittany White last week or this week. 36 in the points, a well-needed run for her in eighth. Betty Barrett came home in ninth. She's 26th in points, and 10th is Josephine Bouvier. Ben Erickson, well-needed run. This will get him away from 30th in the standings. Samantha Grainger came home in 14th, continuing to build that cushion between herself and 30th in the standings. Annie Thomas came home in 15th. That's a key factor because she was 55 points back of 30th in the standings. We'll see where 15th is going to situate her. Ponzo Albanus came home 22nd. And he came into this race, I believe he had a nice little cushion, so he should be okay as far as that's concerned. He only had a 61-point cushion between himself and 30th, so he should be okay as far as that's concerned. Ashley Horton, 25th. Hannah Smith, 24th. Ooh, that's not good for Hannah Smith because she gave us race 7 points ahead of 30th in the standings, where Marty Stevens finishes 34th. I think that might have just taken Marty Stevens out of the top 30 in the points table as we look at the rest of the finishing results here. Cody Smart finished 18th. He was second in points. Jacob TwoTwo had a problem, had to come to pit road, never recovered. 37th for the points leader. Ashley Reynolds finished in 33rd. And did she have a big enough cushion between herself and 30th in the standings, or was she out of the top 30? Let me double check. She had a nice little cushion. She was, let's see. If it was 387, she would have been 50, so 48 points. Yeah, she'll be all right, but Zachary Taylor, I don't think 29th is going to cut it for him. Melissa Cooper, Luigi Cadet, Courtney Lynn's also going to drop out of the top 30 in points. But all 40 cars finished the race. 37 of them were on the lead lap, but the points have taken a major beating heading into next week, and I count at least 3 drivers will be outside the top 30 in points. Lynn, Taylor, and possibly Marty Stevens, depending on what I'm seeing here. But that's going to do it from here at Hillside. We're off to Papyrus next week. Congratulations to Jerry Harvick on his first win of the year. If you enjoyed today's race, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the PCSRA crew. Today, we showed your full finish results. Your point standings are down the description heading into next week at Papyrus, where we're going to have all 3 series there in action. Until then, I've been D TwoTwo signing off. Goodbye from Hillside, and thank you for watching another broadcast of PCSRA TV, celebrating 15 years as the best center racing around the world since 2017, and where champions are made since 2010.